If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, joining me right now is a man returning to action this Saturday at Cage Titans Combat Night 2. He's taking on Mohammad Al Kinani. And if you can't make it to Plymouth Mash, you can watch the action right here on FloCombat. Chris O'Brien, the bearded dragon, is here joining us on the show. How are you?
Great. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. So you have not slept in several hours at this point, so I really appreciate you taking some time at this point. Tell the folks what you do outside of competing in the cage, because like I said, you've been working for 8 hours, you just got home, and now you're jumping on doing an interview with me.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way. Keep it exciting. But yeah, so I'm a 911 dispatcher. So, you call 911, I pick up, my crew picks up, and we handle all fire, police, EMS for 4 towns around where I live on the South Shore. So I just got off a midnight to 8 shift, and now I'm off until a couple days after the fight. So we're finally hitting the home stretch here.
So you're hoping this interview is super quick so you can go to bed, right?
That's all good, dude. I'm all jacked.
I was just going to say, so we're a little over 72 hours away from this fight. You return to action for the first time in over a year. How are you feeling? You must be all fired up. Are you just itching to get back in there at this point?
Yeah, man. Every time I get in there, everything's a little bit easier. With the weight cut, the dieting, the training, the strength, just kind of figuring out my body a little bit more each time. But yeah, that year layoff, I feel like I've improved a lot of things, but it's made that itch that much worse this time. So I'm looking forward to Friday, finally getting to eat some food again, some real food. I haven't met Mo, I haven't talked to him. Kind of looking forward to getting face to face and getting a feel for how the fight's gonna go. And then obviously fight night. So yeah, the itch is pretty bad right now, especially after a year layoff.
Yeah, I want to go back a little ways because you had fought Matt Bania, someone I know pretty well, in your last fight, and you lost the decision, and thus you dropped your amateur lightweight title. And I know how much that fight meant to both of you guys. He just happened to be the better man that night and get the win. And I know from following you on social media, you took that one pretty hard. You started to question whether or not competing and keeping this train rolling was the right thing to do. So I guess talk about your emotions, what went on in your mind following that fight last summer.
I wouldn't even say it was just that fight. Obviously, that one kind of came to the surface more because of the loss and because of the loss of the title. But I think every fight I've taken it one fight at a time. And after every fight I've had in my little career here, I've kind of questioned whether I should keep going. Obviously after the Sniger fight, when I won the title, I thought about hanging it up there because I'm not in this for the long haul. I'm not doing this for a career. So I broke my hand, and I was like, do I really want to keep risking other injuries and time off of work and, all that stuff? And then I was like, you know what? Well, I got the title. I might as well try to defend it. So then I did that one. And then, like I've said before, I don't want to get too much into it, but, I've had some mental health issues that I kind of needed to get in check before I started competing, started putting myself back out there again. And that last loss definitely hit home. Not so much for loss, I'm a man. I can take my loss, keep my head high, take it on the chin. But it sucked to see the people closest to me. Like when I was in the cage, I was fine. As soon as I walked out and I started seeing people that have had my back since day one, I just couldn't help but feel like I let them all down. And that's what really kind of hit home. Obviously any of them will tell you, I didn't let them down and they never felt disappointed, but it's hard to kind of turn that off. So yeah, I spent the last year just kind of working on everything, my mental game, my strength, my wrestling. I just feel like a more complete person, let alone fighter now. And I think everything's worked out for the better. So.
When did that all change for you? Like the thought process, the realization that, loss definitely sucks. Losses don't define you in this sport unless you let it define you. When was that moment for you when it clicked, thinking to yourself, like, I'm not going out like that. I'm going to keep this train going. I'm 29 years old. Even though I'm not going to do this as a career, I still have a lot left to show everybody in the cage.
I think it probably happened a few months ago. I went through like a whole kind of moving fiasco, and there was like about a month of time where I didn't have like a place to live, and so I finally got all of that situated, and I was actually sitting down with my girlfriend, and we were just kind of shooting the shit, nothing like too serious, and I was like, what do you think about me fighting again? And she basically told me, like, I think it's very important, especially like everything you've gone through, in your personal life and your mental health and stuff. I think it's important not only just for myself, but for other people that might be going through that, whether it's in a sport, whether it's in their personal life, whether it's with their job, whatever. If my story or what I'm going through hits 2 or 3 people I know, let alone people I don't know, and it helps them, then me getting in there and taking a few more punches is more than worth it. So she kind of opened my eyes up to that. Like, yeah, I owe it to others that are paying attention, that are watching, that have been inspired by what I've been able to accomplish. So I kind of pushed myself in that direction after that conversation. So that was probably, I don't know, April or May. And I've just been full steam ahead. No matter what happens, this fight is one for me walking into the cage that night, because I honestly didn't think I'd be doing it again. So, I say it all the time, like, I fight for the people that are there for me, but like the reasoning behind it is, their love and their affection and their support. Like, I've had a hard time in the past, like trying to do that for myself. So the fact that other people would do that for me, I want to give back to them. And I'm going to hopefully do that with my performance on Saturday.
I know you don't want to get too deep into some of the issues that you've gone through, but I think it's kind of important just because you're talking about it, and, some people watch this may not have any idea, what you've gone through. So, what kinds of things have you gone through, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of it?
I've lost, not to death or anything, but I've lost family members in the past year that I don't speak to anymore. I've lost close people to me that were, not as close anymore. Like I said, I don't want to get into too much to it, but I've just lost some close people to me that just aren't in my life anymore. And I've always had these issues where I'm my own worst critic, and that's putting it lightly. I over-critique myself on everything from, waking up and getting out of bed to going back to bed at night, like, and everything in between. I've always been superly overcritical of myself. And it's kind of a shitty thing to, like, that's your baseline. Like, you don't think much of yourself. And to try to, like, get yourself motivated to do something, like compete in the sport. Like, it's not an easy thing. It's kind of scary for the average person, but then at the same time, like, your mind's telling you suck, you can't do this. So I've kind of, like I said, those mental barriers trying to break through, and they've been worse for the past year or so. But like my girlfriend, my teammates, my friends, they know what I'm going through, and they do their best to help pull me through it. And I'm finally out the other end, I think. And I think this fight's gonna have a big impact on that. Like I said, it's win, lose, or draw. Me getting in there is the victory. So I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, we are as well. And you get Mohammad, a very experienced guy in the amateur ranks. He's very tough. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. He's been sort of a New England staple, but this is his first fight under the Cage Titans banner from what I saw. How familiar, I know you haven't met Mohammad before, but how familiar were you with him in terms of him being a fighter when you got the name? And is this a fight you expected to have someday?
I don't know if I would ever fight him. So a little side note on me. My goal's always been, since like my second fight, to be number 1 in New England at my weight class. So naturally, I keep tabs on all the guys that are at the top in New England. So whether we actually know each other or not, like, I'm always scouring the rankings, like, oh, who's above me, who's right below me. So I've seen his name quite a few times, and Mike Bolvea, the owner of Cage Titans, he said on Table Titans a couple nights ago, me and him kind of like talk back and forth, whether I'm on the card or not, just, shooting the shit. And every once in a while I'll ask him like, oh, you got any lightweights fighting this card? Just curious. And he was like, yeah, I got this guy Mohammad, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anyone for him. And I immediately typed back in all caps, Al Kinani. And he's like, oh, you know him? I'm like, yeah, he's one of the best in New England. Of course I know him. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anyone for him. And I'm like, Mike, did you forget I fight? I'll fight him. So yeah, I don't know him, but I know of him. Like I said, if you're a real competitor in the sport, you know who else is at the top of your division, and there's always a chance you're going to run into one of them. So I saw him. I didn't think he would ever come down to Cage Titans, or I didn't really think too much about it. But I'm glad he is, and I'm glad we got this fight all set up. So
how did Mike react to that all caps there? How did he react to you saying that you wanted the fight? Was he just like, oh, thank you so much, like this is amazing, or did he kind of know that if he planted some seeds, you were gonna jump right in there?
No, I honestly don't think he thought, because his initial reaction was, what do you mean you haven't fought in a year and you want a guy that's 6-1? And I'm like, does this surprise you, Mike? Like, of course. Like no one wanted to fight Snyder when I fought him. I was like, give me him. Let's go. We got through that fight, and then he was like, all right, who do you want for your first defense? Like, you got anyone in mind? I'm like, hey, give me the guy that's like #1 in Massachusetts from Western Mass. And he's like, the hell's the matter with you? I'm like, all right, dude, we'll put it together. But it's like, it's kind of part of the course with me. Like, I'm not trying to find some easy fight or something tailored to like my skill set or something. Nah, man, just give me the best guys around. If I lose, I lost to one of the best guys around. So what? I tested myself, and quite frankly, it's more than a lot of guys can say around here. And if I win, I look that much better. So it's a win-win. And at the end of the day, it's a competition. I'm in there to compete against myself. Obviously it's against another guy, another martial artist, but I'm there to prove to myself that I can do this. And it's me beating myself, me becoming a better version of myself at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter who it's against. But at the same time, I'm not going to, sacrifice time with my loved ones, my girlfriend, her daughter, sacrifice time at work for, overtime, money and stuff. And for just that fight, if there's a guy like Kinani on the table, of course I want him.
Talk about some of the guys you've been working with in the gym to get you ready for this fight.
So obviously one of my main training partners, my buddy Jojo Giannetti. He's for the past probably since my second fight, he's been like my main training partner. Obviously knows his stuff. Was on The Ultimate Fighter, fastest sub in tough history. The kid knows the stuff inside and out, and he's actually going to be one of my corners for this fight as well. Obviously, the other guys at South Shore, Johnny Campbell, he's a staple in New England MMA, and he's just constantly upping my game. Every time we roll, we spar, whatever, do conditioning. Another guy you're going to be seeing on this card for the first time is John Pico. I'm not going to say much about Pico. He's gonna show you all though. He's definitely going to be someone to watch. So let's put it that way. He's fighting a stud in Billy Goff, but yeah, Pico's a savage. So I can't wait to see that kid in the cage. But yeah, just the regulars there. Manny, Zach, Sabatino. Just all the guys at South Shore always keeping me ready. We're kind of like a big family there. It's not really like, I'm with these group of guys. It's, whoever's there, we're always working. We're always feeding off each other. So
Cage Titans is just a different kind of promotion than a lot of them in New England. Like fighting at Plymouth Memorial Hall, there's just a different vibe and a different feel to it as opposed to fighting for NEF or, fighting for Reality Fighting and other organizations like that are in New England. Like it's just a whole different kind of an atmosphere. And I know you are a very popular fighter. I'm sure you sold a lot of tickets for this one. What can Mohammad expect walking to that cage in that building, Plymouth Memorial Hall, for the first time in front of a crowd like that?
I hope he brought earplugs. Blow his eardrums out. Yeah, I mean, it's intense. It's intense even when, they're yelling for you. You know what I mean? Like coming out and just like hearing all that screaming and chanting, and it's I liken it like the Roman Colosseum almost, like just floors on top of each other, just like screaming at each other and stuff, and it's a wild atmosphere, man. Like I can't speak on other promotions or other venues because I've only fought for Cage Titans. But yeah, man, Memorial Hall. Since the first time I was in there as a fan, I was like, dude, it would be a dream come true to fight here. And now it's my 6th fight at Memorial Hall. So it never gets dull, it never gets boring. It's such a great feeling walking out there. So he looks like a pretty calm dude, though. He doesn't look like he gets rattled. So I mean, you can if you're one of the top guys in New England. So. But yeah, it's going to be loud, so bring your earplugs.
How do you see this all playing out on Saturday? Your return to action, Cage Titans, Combat Night 2. Like, how does this thing go down when you close your eyes and visualize it?
Knockout. First round.
Just like that. Quick night,
just like that.
In and out, and if you have to go to work, you can just go right to work. You're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. No broken hands this time. That'd be great. No, but seriously, I say that, and honestly, the way I've envisioned this, I've dreamt about it. I do see a knockout in the first round. And it's nothing against him. I just, he's coming in there, guns blazing. He likes to stand up. He likes to trade. So do I. I mean, I really don't see either one of us shooting a takedown. I see us both going out in the middle and testing each other's chins. And it's, whoever makes that fatal mistake first with our footwork, the first person to be in the wrong spot is probably going out. So, yeah, I see a first round knockout. Yeah, that's how I see it.
After everything you've gone through to get to this point, physically, mentally, all that stuff, and I know when you got into the sport, I know you said it a lot heading into the Bania fight, like this is not what you want to do for a career. Like you fight because you fight for yourself. You want to prove that you can get in there and get in the cage and fight, and it's more about doing it for you than beating another person in the cage, and totally respect that. Has this time off, has that reflection on fighting, has that changed the way you approach it, or do you still feel the same way, like this is never going to be a career for me, like this is just something that I'm going to do, not really on the side, because I mean you can't really treat it as such in that way, but you know what I mean? Like has especially with like the Contender Series this season, you see guys like Barrett and DeCastro get UFC contracts, you see the door opening a little bit more. Has that changed your thought process on this at all, or are you still just kind of looking at it in the same way as you did before?
It hasn't changed my thought process on that really at all. Like I said, I've always said it's almost like two different sports. When you go pro, it's a completely different beast. And I have a ton of respect for guys that want to go pro, and especially when holding careers down at the same time, like outside of the cage. Like I honestly don't understand how all those dudes do it. Because even for like an amateur fight, like a 6-week camp, it's like I literally can't jump right back into another camp. Like I need to go work overtime. Like, you know what I mean? I got bills to pay. So, I mean, obviously it gets a little bit easier when you turn pro with the purses and stuff. But it really hasn't changed it. Like I have a love for the sport, but I also have that love for the balance with everything else in my life. And you really have to be dedicated to really push yourself as an athlete and turn pro and try to compete at the highest level. And I don't see myself giving up the rest of the other things in my life, in my personal life, that I would have to kind of push that envelope. But I have, like I said, I've always taken it one fight at a time. I'm not looking past this one. But yeah, I still don't see myself turning pro at all.
Chris O'Brien back in the Cage Titans cage this Saturday at Cage Titans Combat Night 2 in Plymouth, Massachusetts at Memorial Hall. You can watch all the action right here on FloCombat. Chris, I appreciate the time, especially so close to the fight, especially after you worked an overnight, for God's sakes. Before we let you go, let the folks know where they can follow you on this journey via social media. Any shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest, man? The floor is yours.
Awesome. So Chris O'Brien on Facebook, the Bearded Dragon MMA on Facebook page, and then I think Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat is all ChrisOB531. I just want to thank everyone that's been behind me. Like I said, it's I'm not here I am not competing on Saturday if it's not for the team behind me. And I don't just mean my fight team. Obviously, they're included, but, my friends, my family members, my girlfriend, Mary, if it wasn't for them pushing me in this direction and showing me that, I'm worthy of this, I have more to give, and I deserve to do this for myself. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing it. But we're ready to go. We're 100%. I have never felt better going into a fight, and I'm ready to put on a performance. So hope to see you guys all down there.
Thanks again, Chris. All the best to you on Saturday, and enjoy that delicious meal on Friday night.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.